Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at a premium rosé wine from the Douro Valley in Portugal. So this is Rosa Celeste by Alves de Sousa, and it's grown and made at their Quinta de Gaivosa property in the Baixa Corgo, which is a side valley, a tributary of the Douro Valley. So this is a region where ports are traditionally produced. Historically, the Alves de Sousa family have been making ports in the Douro Valley for 5 generations now. However, in the early 90s they released their first table wines. That was after, in the late 80s, Domingos Alves de Sousa took over his family domain and decided to take their wines in a different direction, rather than simply selling port and, on some occasions, grapes to the larger port houses to be included in their wines. The family have been very successful at that, and perhaps part of that success has been the fact that Quinta de Gaivosa is well situated for the making of table wines. It's to the north of the Douro region, as I say, in this side valley at quite a high altitude comparative to some other quintas. They're closer to the mountains. They get cooler temperatures at night, which ensure they can retain acidity in the fruit there a bit better. So you've still got all the wonderful sunshine and heat during the day to ripen the grapes, but at night the grapes are cooled substantially, and that enables them to retain their acidity. As I say, 5 generations of the family have been involved in making wine in the Douro Valley, and this particular wine celebrates Celeste. And Celeste, I think I've got this right, I'm saying, was the family matriarch. I believe she was the grandmother of Tiago, the current winemaker, and that would make her Domingos' mother. I could have that wrong, but that's my understanding of that. And so, to commemorate a member of the family, this had to be the highest possible quality. So the fruit here is from some of their top vineyards. And the way it's handled is to give it very careful treatment, both fermenting and aging in French oak barrels, quite a high proportion of which are new. So there's plenty of flavour from really good fruit, and then that's given extra complexity by the fermentation and aging process. Perhaps part of the point of honouring a member of the family in a wine is to cement the process of passing on the family's traditions from one member to another. So in the 1980s and 90s, Domingos, a winemaker trained both in Bordeaux and in Portugal, took over the estates. He's now mostly handed over the winemaking to his son Tiago, and Tiago is very typical of the new generation of modern Portuguese winemakers, highly trained, very skillful, making some beautifully balanced wines from the native grapes of the region that fit with Portugal's terroirs. This particular wine is a blend of 80% Tinta Cal along with another 20% of Touriga Nacional, so both port grape varieties. The fruit will have been hand-picked. These are steep, high-altitude vineyards with fractured stone soil. You're not going to get a machine harvester into these. In the winery, pressing was very gentle and the juice was lightly settled. Fermentation took place in barrel. These were a blend of barriques, 225 litres, and slightly larger 300 litre barrels. As I say, they were French oak, and 60%, quite a high proportion of the barrels, were new. And after fermentation, the wine aged for a short period in those barrels, so adding oak notes to the flavour of the fruit. So let's see what we make of it, shall we? You have a very pale, perhaps salmony pink, almost sort of just touching on a slightly orange pinkiness. The wine is 12.5% alcohol, and it's not particularly throwing tears onto the glass. It's not hugely viscous. It's a dry wine as well, so there's no sweetness to add to the viscosity. Let's see what we make of the aroma, shall we? The aromas are delicate, and there really is a sort of a peach or nectarine note there. Maybe slight hints of raspberry, but slightly more the sort of the ripe, rich, slightly oily sort of aroma of a ripe peach. There are slight saline, maybe smoky notes, maybe toasty notes from the oak sitting behind the fruit, but the fruit has a reasonable intensity and it's overlaying the oak very nicely. Let's have a taste. palate, that's got some really good crisp acidity. And I think particularly that is a feature of cacao. There's a real freshness, there's a slight tartness to that as well. That's really peaking up some breadfruit. There's a sort of a red currant, a raspberry note, and then actually the fruit opens a little, and again you're getting some more of that peachiness towards the finish. It's slightly less distinct on the palate than it was on the nose. The acidity is giving the fruit much greater length than you would expect given its weight, and it does have some really good concentration actually, but it's really lifted by the acidity there. The alcohol is nicely in balance. There's maybe just this tiny bit of warmth, which is emphasising some toastiness in there. But in general, the good acidity is lifting that, and there are sort of peachy notes running right the way through to the finish of that wine. It's balanced, it's got fantastic intensity. That's a really interesting wine to try. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, do please press the like button. Do consider sharing it with your friends if they're interested. That would be great. Do sign up and follow us on YouTube. We'd love your support. Do leave any comments you have in the comments box below, either about the wine, about the tastings we're doing, or about any other related matters. We'd love to hear what you think.